Water is our most abundant, but also our most precious resource. It covers over 70% of the Earth's surface. It surrounds us, sustains us, binds us, and without it, human life would not exist. It was on the ocean that the first Europeans travelled to Australia 4 centuries ago. But for 60,000 years before them, the indigenous people of this continent have relied on water for their lives.
I grew up with water and swimming, and wherever I went, I always had water, and that's very important.
There has always been within us a desire to see beyond our horizon, to explore, and a need to master the water.
My dad made a own canoe from the bush tree, so we packed up our canoe and went travelling on the floodwater home. I'll live here all my life, and my grandchildren, my children. I will die here and buried, and it's my home.
From a canoe on the yellow water Billabong to a racing yacht in Rushcutters Bay, Sydney. Throughout time, water has provided the stage for man to measure himself against the elements. And for over 60 years, the world's greatest sailors have come to Australia to take on nature at its wildest in the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
My early memories are very early because I was actually born on a boat in Rushcutters Bay in Sydney. My parents lived on a boat, so my whole life has been the sea and the water. And some people just say, look, the sea is just part of nature and it hasn't got a life, but to me it has got a life.
Sean Langman has sailed the great race 18 times before, but victory has always eluded him. His 100-foot Super Maxi, Investec Loyal, is crewed by a mixture of sailing professionals and sporting superstars as they aim to raise $1 million for charity and be first to Hobart.
I've watched the Rolex Sydney Hobart since I was a kid. It's been a big part of my life, living here in Australia, and it is one of the great, not only sporting traditions of Australia, but I think traditions for Australians, and to be a part of it right in the mix on Boxing Day is going to be really thrilling.
Look, my expectation for the Rolex Sydney Hobart race is one day I'm going to be wearing a Rolex watch by getting a line on it. So I'm keen to fulfil that destiny.
Over 200 race victories from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. No other owner of Maxis, racing's largest yachts, has been more successful than New Zealand's Neville Crichton. From selling tractors at 18 to becoming Australia's largest importer of exotic cars, Crichton's pursuit of success has been relentless.
I grew up absolutely like a lot of kids, mad about race cars, and then got into touring car racing.
Passion for fast cars gave way to fast yachts, and Crichton's growing fleet of Maxis have become the ones to beat.
I don't think we've ever been in a race anywhere in the world with so much competition for line honours. There's 5 boats capable of winning the race, and we're one of them.
Since 2005, the race has been dominated by Bob Oatley and his Super Maxi Wild Oats 11, winner of the last 4 events. Crichton and Oatley have both poured millions of dollars into their campaigns, but Crichton doesn't just write the cheques, he's steered Alpha to every one of its race wins.
I couldn't have dreamt in my wildest dreams of sailing maxis and owning maxis and doing the racing we've done over the last 5 or 6 years. It's beyond what I could have even possibly dreamed about.
Neville Crichton and the other 99 skippers will leave the Sydney start line in this year's race and head south on their 628-mile journey across the notorious Bass Strait to the finish in Tasmania's capital, Hobart.
We're building to the start of the 2009 Rolex Sydney Hobart. Alfa Romeo. This is the boat many feel they have to beat.
It's just a host of talent on board. 180 Hobarts between them.
40, 30.
Investec loyal Sean Langman with his celebrity crew looking for a good position here.
7, 6. Get him up! Get him up! 4, 3, 2. Take the fly!
Very close now. And there's a spinnaker up already at the top of the screen.
Wild Oats 11 having a very good start in the middle of the line. ICAC also away smartly for Great Britain, and Alfa Romeo down at the pin end of the line. Big problems here on Alfa Romeo.
They've got a wine glass in the spinnaker. Looks like it's going to pop out now, but certainly not the spinnaker set that Neville would be after.
Forget them now. Forget them all together.
The three big guns are at the head of the fleet as we sprint down the harbour to the first rounding mark. And Wild Oats 11 looks as though it has the edge in this sprint. And Alfa Romeo is accelerating brilliantly here.
A sloppy jibe there by Wild Oats. Here's Alfa Romeo steaming through now. While Wild Oats is dropping the spinnaker, you can see the Hetzel going up now. Not the best of manoeuvres there by Wild Oats, and you can see they may have a problem.
But it's going to be Alfa Romeo, Neville Crichton from New Zealand, leading the fleet in the 2009 Rolex Sydney Hobart.
To face the challenge of the ocean demands many sacrifices. Kylie Short knows only too well the price that can be asked. In October 2009, her husband Andrew and crew member Sally Gordon, veterans of 30 Rolex Sydney Hobarts, lost their lives when their boat ran aground off Flinders Island near the coast of Tasmania. Her two sons, Nick and Mitch, were among the survivors, but it has left memories that will live with them forever.
It was Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock and I said to him, "Aren't you going yet to do the night race?" And he said he was just finishing a few things off at work. And I said, "I don't want to miss seeing you off." And he just gave me a kiss and a hug and told me he loved me, and I said, "Be safe and see you soon."
I just remember I was sitting on the rails and all of a sudden I just hear, pull away, and as Dad pulled away, he pulled away, and not only did we picked up speed, and then all of a sudden we just hit the rocks, and I just remember flying forward about a metre, and then this wave after wave kept coming over the boat, and then I think that was when me, Dad and Sally got swept overboard.
I received a phone call at 3 in the morning saying that a distress beacon had gone off on our yacht.
There were people in the water that I saw that, yeah, and I didn't, you don't never think it's your dad. I just thought he was invincible and that. I thought he was safe.
So it was some hours later that we were taken away, and so I went and identified Andrew and Sally, and yeah, found out the terrible reality of what had happened.
Matt Short is honouring his late brother's memory by skippering a crew of 10 family members in this year's race.
See, we've only got between here and the yellow water before we run out of water. Yep.
The Short family typify the bond many Australians feel for the ocean, and even through tragedy, their yearning for the sea remains.
We're here because of the sea. It's a very big part of our life. It covers most of this planet. It's a great thing most of the time, and all it's done here is shown us how temporary we can be, and how, you know, if you get caught unaware, there's nothing you can do about it.
My dad, he just absolutely loves sailing, and the Rolex in Hobart was the one thing. It was like his Christmas that he just looked forward to every year. And if I can finally understand why he loved it so much, and just to do it for me and also for him and all the family, it'd be something that I'll never ever forget, and something I am looking forward to while at the same time have mixed feelings about.
I won't have Andrew on the dock this year like he was last year to take our lines and share a beer and a scallop pie, but yeah, it's a very special event.
We'll now wish you a happy and prosperous new year as we salute Alfa Romeo and Wild Oats 11 ahead of ICAP Leopard from the United Kingdom. It's goodbye from North Head.
Alfa Romeo in red have turned their blistering start in Sydney into a narrow lead over the two chasing Supermaxis. By evening, ICAP Leopard have overhauled Wild Oats for second place as they head further offshore in search of breeze. For the last 4 years, Wild Oats have led from gun to finish, but the team know only too well that a lead measured in miles can melt away in minutes. As the wind builds to a 25-knot southwesterly, Sean Langman's Investec Loyal and his crew of rookie sports stars get their first taste of real offshore racing as they hang on to fourth place. Just a few miles cover the first three boats, but it's Neville Crichton's Alfa Romeo that's in control, setting the pace southwards. 21 miles behind Alpha off Wollongong, Matt Short and his crew of family and friends are pushing their boat hard in 26th place as they prepare for their first night at sea. The fearsome sea conditions that have made the Rolex Sydney Hobart one of the toughest races in the world have still not materialised, and the fleet struggle as they make their way down the New South Wales coast. As night becomes day, the leaders have slowed dramatically. Alfa Romeo, Leopard and Wild Oats all within sight of each other in an eerily still ocean.
Have to be patient and let the wind come. Is it going to be in from the west? Is it going to be in from the east? None of us know. So we're just sitting here, point down to target and wait. There's nothing we are able to do to change the ways of the wind god.
Finally, at midday, the wind arrives. Alfa Romeo sees the opportunity to build their lead, but Wild Oats skipper Mark Richards can only watch as he sees their rivals move away from them.
G'day Rico, Alistair Nicholson here. Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, loud and clear, Alistair.
It's pretty light at the moment for you.
It is, and it's going to get worse, you know, as the morning goes on. You know, with a bit of luck, we'll be able to regroup with these guys and get back into the race.
So for you feel like it's going to have to take a significant change of conditions for you to overhaul these two?
Yeah, I mean, clearly if it stays on the wind, they're going to be hard to reel in for us, so we'll just see how we go.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too, Gary. We'll see you down in Hobart.
36 hours away from the leaders and their journey's end is the island of Tasmania. 10,000 years ago, rising sea levels cut it off from the mainland of Australia forever.
This area of Tasmania is where the Tasman Sea meets the Southern Ocean, so we have some of the world's cleanest, clearest waters coming from the Southern Ocean, coming into the shallower areas, and that certainly makes it a great area for beautiful, pristine water. Hobart is 42 degrees south. Once you get to the southern tip of Bruny Island, you enter the Southern Ocean. There's nothing for 2,500 kilometres between us to when you hit Antarctica.
From mountains to rainforest, Tasmania's beauty and tranquility owes much to the isolation and separation afforded it by the sea. The state's connection with the water remains strong through fishing, shipping, and its many ports, including the island's historic capital, Hobart. And anticipation builds every year for the arrival of the Armada from Sydney. As the sun rises on the morning of day 3, the leading pack has left the Bass Strait and finally reached the top of the Tasmanian coast. Wild Oats have closed the gap on second place Leopard, but Alfa Romeo are still more than 30 miles in front of them and on a charge as they make the most of the westerly wind shift. Neville Crichton and his Alfa team with their eyes on the ultimate prize. But Bob Oatley's Wild Oats is gaining momentum. The reigning champion in white is closing in on Britain's ICAP Leopard in blue, overtaking them and starting to attack Alfa's lead. 30 miles becomes 20, 20 becomes 14. As Bob Oatley gives his team some encouragement from above.
And overhead is our friend and benefactor and owner of this fine boat, Bob Oatley and his jet, just doing a quick lap.
ICAP Leopard have gone offshore and are parked. Their gamble in search of a faster route to Hobart has not paid off.
We need to find some wind. There is some wind offshore and behind us because the boats behind are all catching up.
While 60 miles behind them, Sean Langman's Investec Loyal is powering along in new breeze. Gear failures in the early part of the race haven't dampened their spirits, and the rookie crew are pushing hard for a podium place.
Uncle Nev, we're coming at you like a flame.
And for the rest of the fleet, the Bass Strait finally comes alive. On board Shortwave, and the 52-footer is really hitting its stride in a stunning 16th place. For skipper Matt Short, an emotional moment as they pass Flinders Island, the place where just over 2 months earlier, the Short family suffered their tragic loss. After 2 days at sea, Alfa Romeo round Tasman Island. Just under 40 miles along the Derwent River lie between Neville Crichton and a second line honours win in the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Wild Oats have halved their deficit to Alfa Romeo from 30 miles to 14. But it seems now that Bob Oatley's hopes for 5 in a row are consigned to history. And ICAP Leopard have to settle for a consolation 3rd place in Hobart. 2 days, 9 hours and 2 minutes after leaving Sydney, Alfa Romeo speeds down the Derwent to take the line honours victory as New Zealand's Neville Crichton and his crew prepare to celebrate a hard-fought victory.
Every win's pretty nice, but this is probably more important. The Rolex Sydney to Hobart is the ultimate.
Their 5th win may have eluded them, but for Wild Oats, it's still a 2nd place, and an emotional Bob Oatley is there to meet them.
Well done, Rico. How are you? Really well done.
You know, it's a sport. It's no different to any sport. You know, you can't always win, and it's good for the sport that someone else does win every now and then. And it's we gave it our best shot, and everyone on board's very happy with what they did because we gave it our best shot, and that's all we could do.
As the sun rises over Hobart, it's a weary Mike Slade and his crew on Leopard who take the final podium position.
Thank God that's over.
So we'll drop the jet.
That was a tough one.
Sean Langman and his crew of sporting stars but sailing novices on Investec Loyal prove Aussie determination can overcome many obstacles, even lack of experience as they take 4th.
I think just before we got to 25 knots, we were talking about what we're going to do in 2010, so look forward to it.
Yeah. That won't end one next time. I'll be back next year. I don't know on what play, but I'll definitely be back next year. It's still unfinished, still very unfinished business.
Few arrivals in Hobart could be more poignant than the Short family's remarkable 14th place finish. And few scallop pies taste better after 60 hours and 600 miles at sea.
How you going?
Good, how are you, beautiful?
Yeah, good. Yeah. I thought like this is what Dad loved so much about the ocean, and this is why he did it 15 times. And yeah, it helped. It actually did help me more than anything that sort of anyone's ever said to me before. Being out there and just seeing just everything about it was just amazing.
It was very emotional because we did very well in this race, and I can't help but think that there is a God and that my brother's sitting up there with him, and we seem to pick a few good shifts, and wow, it was awesome.
The Maxis may grab the headlines, but the magic of the Rolex Sydney Hobart is the myriad of boats that participate, and the fact that although for line honours biggest is best, any one of the 100 boats who start the race are able to win the Tattersalls Cup for the overall race victory on handicap. In Hobart, the Super Maxis can relax and refit before the journey home, and the dock is alive with sailors fresh from their epic journey. Still at sea, some boats are still hundreds of miles and even days away. But one thing is sure, for all the crews that make it to the finish, the welcome in Hobart will be warm and the beer cold. Down on the dockside, the atmosphere is building as the race reaches its finale. For South Australian Andrew says, the celebrations are about to begin.
Thank you very much.
Too True in its first Rolex Sydney Hobart has taken the ultimate prize, the Tattersalls Cup for overall victory.
The Rolex Sydney to Hobart has a very, very long tradition. It goes back 65 years. There are some fantastic yachties and icons of Australian yachting that have won this event. To sort of be in that company in a very small way, but an important way for us in South Australia, is just brilliant. I mean, it is the race to be involved with. Well done. Thank you.
From river to ocean, there have always been those eager to embrace challenge in their search for adventure on the water. But what makes them willing to forego comfort and face danger on the sea? Is it perhaps, as the ancient Aboriginals believed, they just have water in their blood? Next time we look back at the year in sailing as we relive the highlights of 2009. From the classic regattas of the Mediterranean to supreme offshore challenges in the Rolex spirit of yachting.